So nowadays, I don't think anybody has their life together, but according to the internet, millennials definitely don't have their life together because there are so many things wrong with them, and apparently they just don't conform to like society, and they're not normal. But one thing that makes them stand out even more, right next to the baby boomer generation, is the drug abuse. Also, side note, according to the Wikipedia page, millennials are the next boomers. So within the next 20 years, their online bullying is going to get 20 times worse. Hashtag good luck. And I don't mean to call them out on anything, and it's not like it's entirely their fault, but their generation was the guinea pig generation with drug prevention, and it didn't really work, and people didn't know how to stop the drug abuse, so it was kind of conflicting. And after the whole hippie epidemic in the United States, drugs weren't really frowned upon at the time, and people didn't start realizing the effects until a lot later. So if you don't like spoilers, tough luck. This movie's been out for 10 years, so you've had literally 10 years to go see it. Also, it was very popular, so I don't know why you wouldn't have gone and seen it. Okay, anyways, Andy is leaving for college, and he has to pack up all of his toys, and he meant to put them in the attic. But they mistakenly wind up on the curb with the trash, and with quick thinking, Woody saves them, but they ended up being donated to the daycare center, which was not as fun as I thought it would be because the kids do not play as nice as Andy plays. So, Woody and the gang plans for an escape, but then something happened. The gang gets split up. Some of them go to a child's house, and then some of them goes to the garbage dump, and it just goes downhill very, very quickly for them. But eventually, all the toys are reunited, and Andy ends up donating his toys to Bonnie for her to play with because it would probably do her more good than him. And it was basically the little extreme, fantasized version of the common phrase of if you love something, then let it go. But now you're probably thinking, why do I care about millennials and Toy Story 3? Well, shocker, Toy Story 3 is actually a drug poem to the millennials. Wait a second, hold on. Did you just say Toy Story 3 was secretly about drugs? Yes, I did. And this makes sense because Andy's the same age as millennials when he's going off to college. So in 2010, whenever Andy's going off to college, so are the millennials around that time. And it just has a special connection between the Toy Story series and millennials just because they grew up together. And it's just, they relate to them on a different level. And I'll later go into how Toy Story 3 shows drug addiction in their movie, but many people think drug exposure starts later in life, but each decade the youth are exposed to it to younger and younger. There needs to be more drug awareness and prevention happening at younger ages. Toy Story 3 attempts at the drug prevention idea by using toys as teens going off to college and the children in the movie as drugs. Although they have a good start to the prevention, Toy Story 3 ultimately fails. The first major point is drug prevention, and the Toy Story series does a really good job with drawing in the younger audiences with the usage of talking toys and imagination. But it also draws in the older audiences with all the drama that happens. And that's what really surprised me about Toy Story 3, was how dark and dramatic it was. It would have been the last movie that I would have expected to have toys traveling to their death in an incinerator. Like, that's insane to me. And the way I look at it, it's the way for people who abuse drugs as an extreme prevention method. The people are at their breaking points when they use drugs, and the toys were at their breaking points, and they were all fighting for their lives to get away from the fire. Shockingly, Buzz was the first person to give up, and he took Jesse's hand, and they were all holding hands before their quote-unquote death, but right before Woody took Buzz's hand, the hand looked like it was reaching out to you. And to me, that's like indirectly saying, like, come join us, stop abusing, we're all here for each other, because the only other option is death. Okay, so the next major point is a big one, and it's societal influence. And society has a huge influence on not only drug usage, but basically like anything like anyone does. this kid will do crack and he'll say, wow, I feel amazing. Let me go tell my friends. And the next thing you know, you got your whole squad doing drugs with you and you're all just hanging out and sniffing it up or whatever. Another influence is celebrities and influencers, obviously. During the movie, they made references that included celebrities like Ken and Barbie and other popular toy figures. Ken and Barbie looked like they had an easy life, and even though they had their problems, to the outside world, they were perfect. But just like everyone else, celebrities fall short, and they can turn to addiction of drugs to fill that void. But once celebrities fall, society thinks it's the right thing to do.
Barbie?
No more games, Ken. What did Lotso do to Buzz, and how do we switch him back?
You can't make me talk. You can't. But I'd like to see you try.
Let's see. Hawaiian surf trunks.
Oh, Barbie! Those were vintage! It's okay. All right, go ahead. Rip them. I don't care. They're a dime a dozen.
The last and final point are druggies, and they're a big part of today's world. With the amount of people who sell, transfer, and consume drugs, it kind of blows my mind because it's a good business to be in, but also it's super, super risky, but also people want that cash, so. The most drug use in the world was in 2009, and that was 1 year before Toy Story 3 was released. But after 2009, the world's drug use started to go down. Most of the time, people know that they're addicted, but they don't want to do anything because they like the feeling of what drugs do to your body. And this was shown in Toy Story 3 when the gang first arrived at Sunnyside Daycare. They were welcomed by the other toys that were quote-unquote veterans, and they thought that it would be the best place to go because Andy was gone. But every time the gang interacted with a toddler or a child, it was a new drug that the millennials were testing out. And every time the toys became uglier, it was the writers of the Toy Story 3 showing that their views of what drugs do to you internally and externally. I hope in today's age, people know that drugs are bad and they don't fulfill you like the way you want them to. And they're just like something to fill the void. And you're never going to be completely happy every time you do drugs. Like, you're just going to want more. And people don't like the feeling of loneliness or negative feelings. And they can always subside those feelings and put them aside by trying to fill that hole in their life by doing drugs. And when the toys meet Bonnie, they're happy and excited to be with her because she cared for them. And she made them sure that they were happy. Bonnie was the only child that wasn't a metaphor for drugs in the movie. And the creators were trying to say that life gets better no matter how far at the bottom you are. They were instilling hope into people that needed it the most. Me Googling drugs don't work, and then The Verve wrote a song about the drugs don't work. So, and that was released in 1997. If that's not a sign, then I don't know what is.